Hello, this is Daniel Mart back again. I'm an actor and filmmaker based out of South Florida, and today we're going to be discussing the top 15 worst projects I've ever had the displeasure of being a part of. So why am I making this video? So this is the final part to a 4-part series that I've been doing for the past month. Basically this month, or last month because we're currently in July. It's actually July 4th right now. So happy Independence Day, everybody. But last month on June, it actually marked the 10th year anniversary of when I decided to go into acting. When I first began officially acting, I started acting 10 years ago, 2014, on June 9th to be specific. That's more or less the date I've been able to narrow it down to, somewhere around there. And the first video in the series, part 1, you guys can learn more about that. So yeah, this is the 4th part in this little series. Part 1 basically discussed the overall journey that I've had in the past 10 years and even some stuff even before that. Part 2 had me reacting to some of my first roles, monologues, headshots, reels, projects, a bunch of that stuff. And part 3, which was last week's video, I did my top 30 best projects that I've ever been a part of. And again, this is the final part of the series, part 4, top 15 worst projects I've ever been a part of. And I'm kind of happy it's just 15. I'm not sure if scared is the right word, maybe worried, concerned if this was top 30. And to be honest, top 30 wasn't originally going to be top 30. It was going to be originally top 20, but I just had even more projects I wanted to spotlight that ended up being top 30. So yeah, this is half of it, top 15. And part of the reason I'm doing this video is honestly because I feel like I want to be transparent with you. Yes, there's a lot of good stuff in this industry. There's a lot of good stuff that has happened to me in this industry. I've had a bunch of great experiences. Likewise, however, I've had a bunch of negative experiences, and this list, more so than the one from last week, we're going to be discussing more so experiences here than projects. I know what the title says, but a lot of these projects here are projects that either never got off the ground, if I'm being honest, or they're really, again, just more experiences. And that's also the thing with last week's video. It was projects, but also experiences, but I think for this video more so, it does focus more so on the actual experiences, if that makes sense, as opposed to the overall project, if that makes sense. So yeah, we have top 15 here. Let's get to the list. So at number 15, we have Saudade. So this is one of the first projects I ever did when I first got into acting, when I was first doing auditions and really looking for roles as an actor. This is back when I was looking at roles through Craigslist or Actors Info Booth or a bunch of these other websites that actually don't exist anymore or aren't really that good to find roles anymore. And yeah, Saudade. So why do I have at number 15? And here's the thing, if I'm being honest, this is generally speaking just a neutral. Like, my feelings towards this are generally neutral, which is why it's this low on the list. But the reason it's number 15 is because they kind of did, I don't want to say a scam. I don't think that's the right word, but they kind of like gypped me, essentially. They kind of did gyp me. They kind of did cheat me in some respect. And Saudade is the first, or not the first, it's the only role that I've done where I was actually supposed to be SAG eligible for. I was supposed to have my SAG eligibility card. I mean, you don't really get a card when you're SAG E, but because of that role, I was supposed to at least be eligible for SAG. And I've never done any other SAG work since then, and this is the only SAG work I ever did. But the way SAG works, you need to get a receipt, or like the check receipt. You need to get proof essentially that you got paid for the role, and I never actually got paid for that role, despite the fact I signed the contract, despite the fact that I should have been paid within, like, I want to say a few months after production ended. I was never paid. And this was all the way back in 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. From what I know about this was a web series. I appeared in one of the episodes, and they eventually did release a series, but that's the thing. It took a long time for the series to actually be released. It wasn't released until, I want to say, 2020, 2021. And when I shot this, give or take, 2016, and it came out in 2021. And there was I don't know what happened in the interim. I don't know what happened during the post-production. I don't know what happened again. But this project took a long time for it to get out. I think the first 2 episodes were available, but episodes 3, 4, 5, and 6, I want to say, and 7 and 8, I forget how long this series went on for. But those episodes, none of them released until after the pandemic started. And I do have my scene. It's up here on YouTube, and I'm basically a glorified extra, essentially. I'm in the scene where the coach is talking to the players, we're like football players, and he's saying, I think it was like good game or something like that, or get out there, train harder, stuff like that. And that's really it. And again, the only reason this is here on the list is because I should have gotten my SAG eligibility for this role, and I never did. And that's really it. That's why it's on the list. Sometimes you get screwed over. Although to be honest, given what the fuck SAG did last year, that's all I have to say. At number 14, we have Scary Teddy, and I want to say this is the most recent thing I have here on this list. And Scary Teddy is a project that it never really got off the ground. We're gonna start filming this year. We were doing the pre-production, working on the pre-production for it for since the beginning of the year. Julian Russo, he was the director of this project. He had been working on the pre-production for this for even way before this, for years with some other writers and some other producers and those plans honestly just fell through. So then he came to me and to Albert Aronov, and the three of us, we worked with each other on the mechanic. He said, hey, I have this project, it's a feature film, and I want to get it off the ground. We got the funding for it, we got the locations for it, we got the cast and crew for it, and everything was going swimmingly up until literally the week before we were supposed to shoot, when everybody, for no reason, dropped out. All the cast essentially dropped out. They started dropping like flies, like literally the week before we had to go there, and it was just a disaster. And it was one of those things that Julian was very, very, very dissatisfied with how it turned out. I mean, turned out because there's nothing to show for it, but with how it turned out at the end. And honestly, I thought the script was good. It was supposed to be a fun slasher. That's really it. It was a fun slasher. And overall, the experience doing the pre-production with this, with working with Albert, working with Julian, working with some of the other actors was good. We had a good table read. And overall, everything was good. We did have one incident with an actress before that, where it was a few incidents, but some stuff with like how her costume needed to be, and she didn't like the costume per se, and so there was that, and her availability was kind of an issue at times. If it was just that, it was just this incident with this one actress, and had we filmed everything, this would have been, okay, cool, maybe it would have been in the top 30, but no, it's here in the top worst 15, because everybody literally, within the last few days, within that last week, everybody decided to drop out. What happened essentially is that the main actor, he had to drop out because he got a gig somewhere else, and so he had to leave. And then because of that, his girlfriend, who was also in the film, had to leave because she had to go support her man. And after those two left, everybody else just decided to leave because, oh, that means this project's no longer happening. It's like, no, guys, that's not how it works. We'll try to reschedule. We'll try to get this through. We'll try to see this through. And it just really didn't turn out great, and nothing turned out because of it. If I'm being honest, I mean, there's nothing to show for it, and it was just very frustrating. It was very demotivating. But that's the thing, and I've had this happen to me in the past too, where I'm working on a project as a producer. We're in the pre-production phases. We're writing it. We're hashing this out, and there are a lot of projects that do die in the pre-production phase. It's a lot more normal than you think. That being said, it's still very discouraging when that happens. It's very demotivating. And honestly, the reason why it happened, if it was because lack of funds, for example, or if the location, because we did have some issues with the location, if the location last minute said, hey, we don't want to do this anymore, blah, 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 that would have been one thing. But for me, it came down to just the utter unprofessionalism of the actors. First off, the lead actor, like, you're booked for a role. I understand you have a gig, but you're booked for this role already. You shouldn't be off doing another gig, and that's what dismantled. And then everybody else just thinking, oh, if he's not on it, I'm not gonna be on it. And for me, it was just very unprofessional. That whole thing, how it turned out, was very unprofessional. And and I think that's the part that really just pisses me off, though. Just the total lack of professionalism from all these actors. Again, you have a lot of projects, they die in pre-production. It's a lot more normal than you think. That being said, it's always going to be demotivating. It's always going to be discouraging when that happens. And just the nature of how it happened, the fact that it was so last minute, the fact that Julian wasn't able to get his money back on some of the locations or with the props or the costume that he had already spent money on, it's like, that's the part that sucks. That's really the part that sucks. And me also because I had started to promote this already as well, and the fact that we had to take it off, take it off my Instagram and all that, it was just. It sucks, and that's why it's here at number 14. Maybe it'll be higher in the future, who the hell knows, or maybe I'll just stop giving a fuck after a while, but because it's also just so recent, that's why it's here on the list. On to the next. Next up, we have The Crucible. So when I was first at MDC, I had to take acting classes, naturally, and for my acting 2 class, I did The Crucible. I'll be honest, I don't know The Crucible that well. So your role as an actor, when you get a scene from a theater, from a play, is to read the play so you can understand the character. I didn't do that. I'll be completely transparent. I did not do that. I'll be honest, there is a part of me that was unprofessional. So there's that. And the scene we had to do was the scene where Proctor John, so that was me, I was playing Proctor John on top of everything else, was going to go back to his wife, and they were discussing something that had just happened in town, and that's how much I do not remember about the scene. So why do I call this one of the worst things I've done in general? Part of it just had to do with the experience. I'll be honest, I don't even think I realized how big of a play the Crucible was until like way after the fact. Like I knew, yeah, it's a play. Like it's like Glass Menagerie. It's like Long Day's Journey Tonight. It's a big play. People know it, but I don't think it really registered in my mind like how big, like how capital big of a play this is. And I think that's part of the reason why I didn't take this role as seriously as I should have. Part of it also had to do with the fact that this is a scene I was doing after I had just done Orange Flower Water, which, if you saw my video from last week, I would say is the best thing I've ever done acting wise. Orange Flower Water by far is the best thing I've ever done acting wise. I don't think I've ever matched it. So it was coming off the heels from that. So I'll be honest, I was also kind of cocky, like, I just did Orange Flower Water. This is nothing. But the one thing that really tanked this experience for me was my co-star, my scene partner. She did not give a fuck. Straight up. She did not give a fuck. She had just done a scene with my boy Jace, because that's how we met. Me and Jace met through MTC, through taking the same acting classes. And he had just done a scene with her, and he had told me how unprofessional she was, how unwilling to work with you she was, how she just never wanted to rehearse. She was arrogant, X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z. And to a certain degree, I had internalized that and already had a negative opinion on her. Now, in all fairness, I already had a negative opinion of her because of a bunch of other stuff even before that, but just this didn't help her case. Yeah, and like I said, she was uncooperative and didn't want to work. She didn't want to rehearse. She really didn't memorize the lines. And because I saw that she didn't want to put in the work, I didn't want to put in the work, and that's where my unprofessionalism came in. And it got to the point where my teacher, Professor Braun, Joshua Braun, he had to go up to me at one point and say that, like, and this is honestly probably some of the best advice I've been given in acting ever, or just in general, is that forget about them. Don't mind what they're doing. As long as you're doing what you need to do, that's all that matters. Just focus on what you need to do. Make sure you outshine them no matter what, whether they're putting in all the work or not. It's better if they're not putting in the work, because then it shows like the contrast that they're not doing anything, you're doing everything, and it shows more of who you are as a person and as an actor than it shows about them, than it says about them. And that's honestly some of the best advice I've ever received when it comes to acting or just general life advice. And it's one of those things I've really taken to heart. But yeah, it just really comes down to that. I had such a negative experiences with that play, working with that actress. And this was for a grade too. This was for a grade. I forget what grade I got, but it wasn't that good. And I've never read The Crucible since then. To be fair, even back then I barely even read it. But it's one of those weird things. I was like, yeah, I played Proctor John, but like not really, because I didn't really give a fuck about the scene, So, but it's one of those things. Like I've done Long Day's Journey Tonight. I've done Doubt. I've done Glass Menagerie a number of times. I've done A Few Good Men a number of times. Orange Flower Water, Dog Sees God, and The Crucible. It's the one that it's like, yeah, no, I screwed the pooch on that one. Like, that is the worst thing I've done. Maybe I'll revisit it one time, maybe, even if just to read it just to read it. I'm pretty sure I have a summary in my collection, to be honest. I should have it, but yeah, The Crucible. And again, though, I did take that one negative advice, which is great. At number 12, we have Unwritten, and this one may seem like a bit of an odd one to put here. So again, some context. Unwritten is basically the story of Damien Stone, I believe that's the character's name, and he's trying to get an article sent to his boss. I directed this movie, this short film. I had a small voice acting role in it as well, but this was basically a one-man show with Jace. And originally how I had envisioned this project was that I was going to portray Damien Stone. This was going to be a one-man show for me. So what changed? Basically what had happened is that I was dating a girl right before this, and she cheated on me, and we broke up. And I was basically in an emotional rut, essentially. And in order to get my head out of that mentality, I just wanted to do something. And Unwritten happened to be the unfortunate victim of my decisions at that point to distract my mind. It's one of those things that Unwritten, the concept for the film had always been in my mind for some time. I had written out the script for it, but I always wanted to polish it up, make it better, etc., etc., etc. But when the breakup happened, I was like, screw it, I'm going to do this right now, because what else do I have to do? And that's what I did. Like, literally, I got broken up, like, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we filmed this Saturday and Sunday. Like, that's, like, within the same week. I barely cleaned up the script. I just sent it out to Jace. I sent it out to Jordan, who was the cameraman / producer for that project, Jordan Roa. and that's it. And it's also one of those things that both Jace and Jordan could tell something was up. Jace knew a lot more about the situation than Jordan, but they both knew that I wasn't operating at 100%. They knew I was distracted. They knew I was using this as a distraction for something. And again, Jace knew a lot more than Jordan, but they could tell that I was clearly being affected and that my head wasn't completely in the game when filming this. Now, if you see the film, it's all right. It's an all right film. I'm not gonna lie. It's an all right film. It's competently made, even with the work that I had done up until that point, with like let's say the deal, and I think I had done one episode of Woman Movies by that point. It was very very amateurish in my opinion, and that's kind of why it's on the list. It's just like I let my emotions be controlled at that moment, at that point. And yes, I was using it as a way to distract myself, but like it's one of those things that I clearly knew I was doing by using that as a distraction, and it just, in my opinion, it just didn't come out well. It didn't come out as how it was supposed to at the end. And again, if you look at the movie, yeah, it's competently made, but it's like also like whatever. It's like one of those things that's whatever. And it's also one of those things that Jace even offered to edit the film for me, but I was like, no, I have to edit this. I have to edit this. I have to edit this. And I remember while I was editing this movie, I was like hating myself because like I should have let Jace do this, but two, like why the fuck do I even want to make this movie? Like I don't. This movie just seems incomplete in general because the script's not polished and clearly I'm not in the right mental state to like be working on this project. Eventually, I released it like 2-3 months later. I want to say like right there after the pandemic started. I think in April, and that's when I released it. And some people saw it, some people liked it, but I did get a few critiques saying like, "Hey, not your best work," or "Hey, this and that could have been done better," or "Why is this like that?" Stuff like that. And I really didn't pay much attention to it. That's the thing. I never really pay much attention to criticisms in general. It's one of those things like I just wanted to move on from this project, and it's kind of like a black stain on my record, if I'm being honest. It's the one film that I'm kind of like, yeah, I did that film. I directed that film. That's a film that I directed. So be it. I do have to own up to it, regardless. But yeah, that's why it's on the list. On to the next. At number 11, we have The Taking of Broward County Savings and Loans. And this is one of the first films I did. I did auditions for it, and I got the role. The reason I have this here on the list has to do with some of the stuff that happened after the fact, after the film had finished its filming. It basically had to do with the fact that I had a falling out with the director, straight up. So long story short, because it's honestly a very long story, he was accusing me of having done certain activities while I was on set or off set. Some examples of it just being like under the influence while I was on set, or like editing the IMDb page for the film, or some stuff like that. And he was accusing me of this stuff, and I didn't know where this was coming from. You're editing your own IMDb, so like I don't know where that's coming from. And as for the me being intoxicated on set, again, don't know where that's coming from. I'm like, I think I was still in high school at this point. If I'm being honest, I was like maybe 17 at this point. Yeah, I had to be in high school because I remember doing the audition in like one of the classrooms. So this was in high school. So like it's one of those like I don't really get intoxicated. Like I have no way of getting intoxicated. You know what I mean? And I'm not the type of person to, like, sneaking a drink, especially back then. So like I just want to. He was just accusing me of this stuff that just wasn't true, and it kind of put a weird feeling over the film in general. So there's that situation, and then he kind of just disappeared for a number of years. And it's one of those things like, I guess I'm just never going to hear from this film again. And randomly I forget if it's like through email or through like phone numbers or whatever, he sends a message to the whole cast and crew. It may have been through Facebook now I think about it. But he sends a message to the whole cast and crew saying this whole story as to why it's delayed, why the film has yet to come out. And he basically said that he got robbed. This whole thing about him getting robbed and him breaking up with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend being the one who robbed him, but then him also having car troubles, and his like computer getting lost in the mail system or some shit like that. And it was like a whole story. And I remember I was talking to the makeup artist, Elise, from this film, because we were working on some other projects around this time too. And we were just laughing our asses off. I was like, really, this is an excuse? Just say that you don't have the film, and that's it. Like, we don't really give a shit. So yeah, so there's that. And then I never heard from him again. I never heard about the film again until I just randomly decided to search him up, because I did get curious one day, like, what ever happened to this film? And I just decided to search it up, and I come to find out that he finished the film at some point, and he posted it up on Vimeo. So what I essentially did at that point was I downloaded the film from Vimeo, and then I posted it here on my channel, so you can actually find it on my channel. It was just such a weird experience, especially for it being one of my first films. that a director would accuse me of like being on drugs or being drunk, and then accuse me of like changing the IMDb page and like threatening him or harassing him through like Facebook and stuff like that. And it's like it made no sense to me. Like, why is he doing this? And I remember I was talking to Elise about it too around this time too, and she was like, "Yeah, I have no idea why he's doing that." I talked to some of the other cast and crew around this time, and everybody just found it to be a weird situation, and they also had their own similar experiences with him. Like, oh yeah, he was just very weird about me, also accusing me of doing this and doing that and trying to sabotage the project, and it was just a very weird experience. That's why it's on the list. It was such a weird experience that I've never really know. I honestly don't even know how to handle it, so to speak. Like, I don't think I've ever come to terms with like that whole experience per se, and I don't mean that's a bad thing either, because in a lot of ways I've moved on from the experiences, but at the same time it's like I just don't know what to make out of that whole situation. And it's just such a weird situation that I've just like preferred not to think about it. I'm like, fuck it, whatever it is, what it is. But and that's also the reality of the situation. It was just such a weird experience, and that's why it's here on the list. Is like, what the fuck? Luckily, thankfully, because this doesn't happen that often. When a director disappears, because I've had directors who have disappeared on me, and I've never heard from or seen the project ever again. But thankfully, I was able to find this project eventually, and again, if anything, I have a copy of the film, which for me, that's all that matters. That's a tip. No matter what, always try to get a copy of the film. Always, always, always. I always say that. No matter how bad the director is, no matter how bad the experience was, no matter what, always try to get a copy of the film. It helps you a lot. Even if the film sucks at the end, even if your part is drastically cut down, always try to get some footage. Even if just your scene, always try to get the footage of the film. Even if it's just for your scene. That's all I'm gonna say. On to the next. At number 10, we have Lost Love, and this is a project I did last year with a friend, and the reason I basically have this on the list is because it kind of broke our friendship for a few months last year. Not to go too in-depth with this one, because this is one I have actively been trying to like move on from, and it's one of those things I am trying to be transparent with you and telling you some of the worst things. But at the same time, like some of these, I kind of just want to talk about them and that quickly and move on. And this is one of those situations where I kind of just want to talk about it quickly and move on. But essentially, it came down to a lot of miscommunication between the two of us, and people saying stuff about each other, like so people telling her stuff and people telling me stuff about each other that just wasn't true, and basically rumors, how the rumor mill goes. We both believing said rumors, and that's basically what broke our partnership up. So we did the first part of it, which was like a 30-second thing for her class, and then went on to do the chaos repellent commercial, and then we were gonna do for her final for her class like a longer version of Lost Love. However, I had a lot of issues with the script. I was trying to help her improve the script, but it's also one of those things like, at the end of the day, if you prefer your script, if you prefer what you want to do, that is completely fine with me. I'm trying to help you, but if you refuse the advice, that's completely okay with you. You're the director of the project. That is your prerogative. I'll still help you however I can. But again, I just heard a lot of stuff. People were telling me a lot of false stuff about what was going on during that situation, about her talking behind my back, and I believed those people. And again, yeah, that broke our friendship for a few months. We didn't really reconcile till right before Thanksgiving, I want to say. Yeah, that's really it. And it kind of sucks that we lost those months because we were honestly really good friends. And I don't know if the friendship is at that same level as it used to be. But regardless, we're still friends, and that's what's great about it. But yeah, that's why I lost love this year, because it literally broke up one of my friendships, and that sucks. At the end of the day, these like whatever role you take, whatever film role you take, it should never get to that point where you're breaking up your friendships because of this, and that. And it's happened a lot in this industry, especially with me, where people will betray you and this, and that happens. But and I just don't like it. And I kind of just didn't want the situation to be like that. And that's in part why I reconciled, because also I found out the truth, like, oh, these people were lying to me. Well, fuck that. Now I have to apologize and blah blah blah. That's honestly why it's on the list, because of all the drama behind it. On to the next. At number 9, it's kind of a 2-for-1, and this is Bonded and Forever Youth. So these are two films that I did during the same year, during the same time period, for the 48-hour film challenge back in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. And I kind of talked about these films last week when I talked about Debts Unpaid. So in 2019, I somehow ended up doing 3 48-hour film challenge films. I did Debts Unpaid, which you can find out more about from last week's video, but I also did these two films, Bonded and Forever Youth. Technically speaking, I just did Bonded, if I'm being honest. So, what happened? So, Debts Unpaid, they were filming at night. And I went to set for Debts Unpaid. I filmed all my night stuff, because that's the thing. That whole film takes place during at nighttime. And I went up there, did my scenes at night, fell asleep on Mallory's floor. Again, you can find out more about that from last week's video. And then when I woke up, I got a ride and went down to where I needed to be for Bonded and Forever Youth. That set. That's the thing. There was two teams working with with similar cast and crew and similar sets. So the idea was that I was going to be one of the leads in Forever Youth, and I was going to have a cameo in Bonded. So that was the original idea. And, I was given the lowdown, I was given the script. So, yeah, that was the original plan. But what had happened is that I had told one of the directors, like, hey, I'm very tired because I just filmed for most of the night up in West Palm Beach, give or take. Is there a place I could go to sleep very fast? And then when you guys need me for Forever Youth, you guys just, wake me up and we'll go to the location that you guys have for Forever Youth. And that was the plan. So I fell asleep. And then when I woke up, the team for Forever Youth had essentially disappeared. I had tried to contact them. The other director had tried to contact them. Everybody had tried to contact them and saying, hey, where the hell did you guys go? Because you left one of your lead actors here. And that's the thing, like, that's one of those things I found very weird. Because the character they wanted me for was, like, one of the lead actors. He was consistently throughout the film. So I'm like, how are you filming this stuff without me there? Like, it just kind of made no sense for me. And so because of the fact that they basically disappeared, my cameo role in Bonded basically became a supporting role, essentially. It's one of those things, like, I wasn't, at that time, I wasn't that comfortable with the concept behind Bonded. So how the 48-hour film challenge works is that they give every single team a genre, and you have to make a film within that genre, and Bonded got comedy or musical, or comedy and musical, something like that. And the concept that they wanted to go for was like a sex comedy type of thing. And one of the scenes that they had me doing was kind of like this fake orgy scene, for example. So we had to be shirtless. So there was that. There was a scene where it was going to be my cameo. Like, this part was always going to be me. It was going to be the cameo. But there was a part where, like, my penis, shows up. And, like, not really. They had, like, the character is like a thumb. It's called Micro P, and like one of the other actors kind of just stuck his hand through another pair of pants and just like imitated, like, oh, that's a penis talking or whatever the fuck, right? But I was gonna be they were gonna basically have a close up of my my crotch region for a second, or something like that, from what I remember correctly. Yeah, because the people from Forever Youth left, my thing in Bonded got bulked up. And in all fairness, they did say that if I felt uncomfortable with the subject matter, I don't have to do it. In all fairness, but for me, it was one of those things like, I'm not doing Forever Youth, so I might as well do this type of thing. I don't like it, but like, I have nothing else to do, so I might as well do it. And yeah, so we ended up doing that. We ended up doing like the fake orgy scene, was really weird. And eventually, the people from Forever Youth came back. And we were like, where the fuck have you been? We've been trying to contact you. And supposedly the director, her phone wasn't getting any messages, which is weird because she was getting messages from everybody else except just conveniently me and the other director, which, okay, bullshit. And the reason they didn't contact me is because they thought I had left for some reason. I'm like, no, I was literally in the room sleeping. So we asked them, how did you guys shoot this whole film without me if I was one of the main characters? And they were just like, oh yeah, we just basically cut your parts. We gave some of the lines to this other person, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, that's really fucking bullshit. Like, I remember I was like very frustrated, and that was very fucking bullshit. And then they said, hey, I'm still here. I have about another half hour before I have to go back to West Palm Beach to finish That's Unpaid. Is there anything else I can do for your film? So on top of me being frustrated, I was still willing to be part of that film in some capacity. And at the end, they wanted me to be the executioner, so to speak. Which, to be honest, my original character was always that, but they finally gave me that part. And I was supposed to be killing the main character off, essentially. I did that. I did the role. Everything came out good on camera. Everything came good out on sound. I was told everything's good. They'll edit it, and we'll see you next week for the screening. Everything was perfect, cool, great, whatever. And then the rest of the week happened. And I don't remember exactly what happened that week in school, in life, whatever. But all I know is that I just was not having a good week. So then the director called me. The director of Bonded called me because the director of Forever Youth didn't have the balls to call me, essentially. And the guy told me that, yeah, so your part in Forever Youth got cut completely because supposedly there were some audio issues with your scenes that couldn't be recovered, and they just reshot that with somebody else. And I was very pissed off at that point. I was super pissed off at that point, and just like, bro, you had me there for that whole day. You left without even trying to contact me. you ignored my messages. What the hell do you mean you're gonna cut the one scene that you did that was already supposed to be mine to begin with?" And I was super pissed. And then the other thing that kind of just triggered me, and this is a much more minor thing, but it's one of those things like after just a whole week of shit, this is kind of the thing that broke the camel's back. It's the fact that the director of Bonded, he said, "What's your email so I can, I guess, try to send you that scene?" Which, by the way, I never got the scene. Keep in mind, I never got the scene, so I don't know what the fuck happened to it. But he's like, "Yeah, what's your email?" So I told him my email, and he's like, "That really? That's your email?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's wrong with it?" He's like, "That's a very unprofessional email." And I kind of just snapped at him. I'm like, "Yo," and that's the thing. Like, it's my email is like my name with a few numbers. I'm like, that's a very generic email format. Having like your name and numbers. Like it's like saying John Smith 55678. Like, that's a very generic template for an email at gmail.com or at bellsouth.com, at hotmail.com, whatever. You know. So I was like, what the hell do you mean that's an unprofessional email? This is a basic template for an email, blah, 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 blah. And that's honestly what triggered me. More than me being cut from Forever Youth, more than me putting myself through that uncomfortable situation in Bonded, it's the fact that he commented on my email. That's what the part that really pissed me off at the end. And I remember one of the other producers from that production eventually did contact me and just wanted to know what the hell happened, because he had heard that I snapped, and he understood where my frustrations were, and he took my side. He honestly took my side. He defended me. It's one of those things where like it doesn't matter though, because my scenes in Forever Youth were cut. And then the last kind of cherry on top, it's the fact that Bonded never got an official release. And the reason why it never got an official release is because at the time, one of the other actors for that film was trying to do a political run, like local governor seat type of shit. And because of that, he didn't want to be seen in this really weird and somewhat sexual video. And it's one of those things like, if you knew that was the concept for the fucking film, why the fuck did you agree to be a part of it? So that's the other thing. Bonded has never been officially released anywhere, as far as I know. There are a few clips that exist. There were a few clips that were put on for the promo material for the 48 hour during that time. I did manage to rip that footage and put it on my YouTube page, and it's only about 15-20 seconds of footage. But yeah, that's the only footage that's available online of this film, which honestly makes this whole experience a lot more frustrating. Like, both films that I did are basically non-existent because of bullshit. And that's the thing too. Forever Youth is also not available anywhere, from what I can tell. Or as far as I know, it's not available anywhere. So like, that one's, so I don't know what the hell happened to that year. But yeah, that's why it's here. Just piss off after piss off after piss off. Next. So at number 8, we have another combination type of category here, and it's because it's 3 films in one, and this is Summer Joy, Thanos, and You're It. And the reason I'm combining these 3 together, it's because they all come from the same director. I'm not going to say the director's name, but if you want to search it up, go ahead. Yeah, and here's the thing. I did 4 films with this director. Only one of them was ever released. These other 3 have yet to be released. If I'm being honest, they're yet to be officially completed in some capacity. My problem really stems with just this director. I'm just naming the category after the 3 films because I don't want to name the director. As you can tell, I don't want to name anybody I had a negative experience with. So there is that. But yeah, essentially we did these 4 projects, but again, the 4th one was released. But we did all these projects together, and he just never really finished any of the projects. The first of these projects that we did was Thanos, and we literally reshot that film 3 times, straight up. We shot it one time in December of 2017, I want to say. 2017, give or take. We shot that in December of 2017, and we had to do reshoots, and we thought we were going to be final reshoots, but we didn't do reshoots until I want to say about February, March of 2018. Thing is that he had burned a lot of people within that interim, that he needed to recast everything, and because he had to recast everything, he needed to reshoot the whole film all over again. So that happened, and then we needed to do another round of reshoots later on, like a few months later. And we thought it was going to be 1 or 2 things that needed to be reshot, but for whatever reason, he wanted to reshoot the entire film. And it's one of those things that, in me trying to help him do that project, I basically became the second unit director for that project, or like second assistant director, something like that. Yeah, that happened. And I remember at one point he wanted to do a 4th round of reshoots, which would have been just reshooting the whole film all over again. I told him, no, just don't do that. Just edit the film and release it. Eventually he did edit a trailer for it, and I'm not gonna lie, that trailer looks like shit. But the thing that always surprised everybody, especially us, the cast and crew, was the fact that it said Part 1. So Thanos Part 1, or Chapter 1. And everybody, I remember I was talking to Celine, who was one of the actors for that film, and they were like part one. I didn't even know this was chapter one. I didn't know this was a part one. What the hell? You know, like nobody told us. I'm like, I wasn't told about this. The hell? Yeah, the only thing that exists about that is a trailer. I appear in the trailer, so there's that. But it was so random. Then we went on to do the film that he actually did complete and release. Thank fuck. And then we went on to do Your It. And Your It was another film that he did, and this was when he was becoming more frustrated in life. I guess is the best way to put it. So we shot Your It, and we had to shoot it. We shot it at a beach here. I don't want to say it's South Beach because I don't think it was South Beach, but I think it was like beach up in Broward, if I'm not mistaken. And we shot that. We shot a bunch of scenes down here in Coral Gables, and we ended up doing some scenes up in Loxatachi. And Loxatachi, I don't know how to pronounce that area, but like that area. And that was we actually filmed at the house of one of the producers. And this film especially, we had a lot of help from a lot of South Florida talent, a lot of other local South Florida producers that really wanted to help in this project. There was a fundraiser for it, if I'm not mistaken. We were trying to build up this project, and he never finished it. And it's one of those things that we were working with a child too. We were working with a child actor. And the second day, which is when we were filming up in Loxahatchee. If you're from Florida, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But besides the point, we were filming with an actor and with this child actor, which is a major point right here when I say this. That second day, we needed to get up to set at like 7 in the morning, to like start shooting, to start prepping the house, everything that we needed, and we were supposed to start shooting, give or take, 9 or 10 in the morning, no later than 9 or 10, from what he said. We literally had breakfast and lunch before we even shot a single scene. We didn't shoot a single scene until like 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and that's, for obvious reasons, pissed off the mother of the child actress. No fucking shit. And that was just a whole real terrible filming experience overall. My part in the project, I was basically a production assistant, and this is one of those projects that makes me not want to be a production assistant. This is one of those, like, if you want to be a production assistant and you love doing that, by all means go ahead. Me, however, I honestly hate being a production assistant for several reasons, and this is one of these experiences that defines why I hate being a production assistant personally. Yeah, like this was such a negative experience, and it's one of those things like because we took such a long time at the house, we actually never finished what we needed to do at that house. We still needed to shoot scenes at that house, but he had pissed off the producer because they were supposed to be gone by like 10 p.m. We were still there at 11, at 12, close to midnight, and we were still there filming, and the homeowner had gotten really pissed off by that point. It's like, you guys should have started this earlier. You guys came here at 6 in the morning. Why the hell didn't you guys start filming at that point? Because we basically dicked around for about 5-6 hours doing jack shit for whatever fucking reason, and yeah, that's what happened. That's a project where he did try to talk to the homeowner for some time. She's like, hey, can we at least reshoot some stuff there? But like, it's one of those things in my back of my mind. I'm just thinking, reshoots, because of what happened in Thanos, reshoots means reshooting the entire fucking project. And he already wasted his sweet ass time that first go around. Who's to say he's not going to waste his sweet ass time third time around, And then we eventually get to Summer Joy. And Summer Joy is basically the one where I'm like, screw this, I'm done with this guy. Everybody was done with this guy at this point. So Summer Joy was a music video for his friend? ? That's the thing, I never even got the clarification if this was like a music video for his friends or not, or if the guy just contacted him to do the music video for him, or if the song that was being used was even belonged to the DJ, because that's the thing, it was for this DJ, but like, I wasn't even sure if this was like a song made by the DJ or what the deal was, but it was a music video. And we filmed some scenes in Wynwood, and then we were going to film some scenes at his apartment, at his pool. At Wynwood, we dicked around a lot. He didn't really have a plan as to what he wanted to do. And again, we were working with a child actor. Thankfully, this time around, the issues with the child actor had been cleared up. We actually managed to get our shit together with that child actor, thank fuck. But we were working at Wynwood, and it's one of those things like you can't really... In general, for any film, you're supposed to have a plan. You're supposed to have a plan. If having a shot list helps you, go ahead. If you're having a storyboard helps you, go ahead. But you're supposed to have a plan of what shots you want to get. He didn't. He wanted to go in there in Wynwood, guerrilla style essentially, and shoot whatever he thought would be interesting. And that honestly is not the best way to go at it. There is a way to do guerrilla style. There is a way to just improvise a shot. I'm not denying that, but you also need to have a plan regardless. It's very rare where you go in there without any plan whatsoever and actually accomplish something good, or passable. Like, forget about it being great, just something passable. It rarely turns out like that, and it just didn't turn out like that for this film. And yeah, So we did everything at Winwood, everything we needed to do at Winwood, and it was honestly a fucking disaster. Like, people were getting pissed off after a while, especially as we kept going on, because he clearly just didn't have a plan with what he wanted to do. He kept bullshitting shots, improvising shots on the fly because, oh, this mural. If you guys know Winwood, it's a very artistic center here in Miami. Like, this mural looks really good. We need to have a scene in front of this mural, and it's like, no. And that's the thing. This isn't again. This is a music video, so it's not like a scene where you do a scene and then this person talks and that person talks and that person's talking. No, this is a music video, so you're just having like montage shots of people dancing and all this stuff. So because of that, to a certain degree, he could get away with that, but he still needed to have a plan for that. And again, you can't just go all willy nilly into like a shop or up against a mural and just dance and have it be art per se. It kind of just doesn't work like that. You need to have a plan. So that was day one. And day two essentially is where all things went to hell. Essentially, a lot of the people from day one had been pissed off by the director's behavior and I actually refused to come back. Sure, there's a few people who refused to come back the second day because of how atrocious the behavior was the first day. And I'm not gonna lie, I was actually considering not coming in that second day, if I'm being honest. But I'm like, you know what? I gotta see this through. I'll do the second day, and I think that's it with me and this director. I don't think I want to work with this guy anymore. I've done 4 projects. Only one of them has been successful. These 3 projects have been fucking shit. Fuck this. But I did the third day. I did the second day. So I was there at the second day, and it was a lot more calmer. I'll say that much. It was a lot more calmer. He did come in there with a bit more of a plan. It was still a mess. That's the thing. It was still a mess. It was just by far. It's one of the messiest things I've ever done. Again, this one has nothing to show for it. There's nothing to show for it aside from a few behind the scenes photos. And there's nothing to show about this project. Unlike Thanos, where it has a trailer. Unlike You're It, where it has a behind the scenes video. This has nothing to show for it at all. It's like he's never even mentioned this project again. Even when I talked to him a little bit after this, he never mentioned this project again. He will mention Thanos, he will mention Yurit a few times, but he never mentioned this project again. And then the one thing that really put a nail in the coffin is, after he had broken up with his girlfriend, he was gonna move away. And it's one of those things like, why are you gonna move away when you still need to finish these projects? Granted, like if you move away, you can still finish these projects, but like it's one of those things, are you ever actually gonna finish these projects? And it was through those conversations that I was just really done with this director. Yeah, he just pissed me off to no end, and I wasn't the only person who was pissed off. A lot of people were pissed off by his behavior at the end, whether it be from Thanos or You're It or Summerjoy, or even the other project that we did, Torment. So that was the other project that we did, Torment. Everybody was just done with this director. Everybody was just like fed up with how he treated people. He was very unprofessional. The one real good takeaway I could take from this experience working with this director was that this is precisely how you do not treat people. This is precisely how you do not treat a set. You always need to go in there with a plan. It's okay to improvise every once in a while, but you always need to go in there with some kind of plan, whether it be a shot list or a storyboard or something. You always need to go in there with a plan no matter what. Know what you're going to be filming on each day. Know time management. Know how to talk to your actors, to your cast and your crew. Despite how negative all 3 of those experiences were, it also taught me a lot about how to be a director, how to be an effective director. Because that's what it comes down to. He was just an ineffective director in the highest order, and I never want to be even close to anything that he did. And yeah, I'm just not. I actually know what I want. I always set a plan for what I want. If anything, the one fault I do have is the fact that I do sometimes lack time management a little bit, but I always know how to rework that on the fly, and that's really it. Always come in with a plan, and that's the biggest takeaway I took from these experiences. Also, just a quick side note on Thanos, because we did end up using my dad's car for one of the scenes, and somehow one of the rugs, like those like the rugs that you have on the floor, the plastic mats in the back, somehow one of the actors decided to steal those mats. So there's also that. Also add that to the part of the negative experiences. I don't know why the fuck he stole that mat, but because of that also kind of pissed off my dad. And aside from one exception, he never allowed anybody to use his car again for anything. The only other exception he did that for was way up in the future for Diary of a Vampire Hunter, which you can actually learn more about in my top 30. But even then, part of the reason he allowed them to use the car was because, oh, we're going to pay you. So there's that. I just wanted to give that little tidbit of a story as well, because now that I just randomly remembered, since I'm talking about Thanos, Summerjoy, and Yurit. But yeah, that's basically it. Fuck this guy. On to the next. At number 7, we have White Panther, and This is honestly a project that did get off the ground, that actually is out there available. I'm just not part of it. So what happened? So I actually, funny enough, I actually did this on the same day as I did another project. That was actually the first time I had done two projects at the same time in one day. So yeah, I shot White Panther, and honestly, it was I personally thought at the time it was a good experience. I had fun with the cast and the crew. We joked around a lot. It was fun. It was great. Me and the director for this project had been talking about working with each other for some time up until that point. We were gonna do another film originally based on the devil, and in Spanish. So that would have been great. Side note, I don't know what it is about Spanish films. I cannot catch a break with any Spanish films. Every time I get cast in a Spanish film where I'm able to speak Spanish, cuando puedo hablar en español, it always falls through in one way or another. I don't know what the fuck my luck is with Spanish films, but every single time, they just never go through at the end for me. But just want to do that little rant. But yeah, we were gonna do a Spanish film even before this, but those plans never fell through. So kind of to like help me out, like help a brother out type of thing, he cast me in this project, and I honestly liked the role. The one issue I did have with the role was the fact that I thought my character could have been further developed, but at the same time, I knew exactly what the director wanted. I understood what he was trying to say and do. And again, I had fun on set. I loved the environment. I thought everybody was cool. So what's the issue? And why didn't I end up in the final product? Come to find out later that week that the one of the producers really didn't like my attitude, which I found really weird because it's like you were laughing with me. You said you liked my performance. What is the issue? And apparently he took offense to some of the comments I had made in regards to the script, how my character wasn't developed. And yes, I like I just said, I did have issues with my character, with how I felt he wasn't developed enough. But at the same time, I understood what the filmmaker was going for. Also, it's also not my place to say that, hey, my character is bad, so to speak, or like it's poorly written. And it's not my place to say. Unless they straight up ask me for advice on my character or what my character would do, I keep all those thoughts to myself. I am not one to share those thoughts, and if I do, it always comes with the asterisk of, here's my advice, but you don't have to take it. It's up to you at that point. So that's what happened. One of the producers essentially betrayed me, saying that I was talking shit about this film. And the other thing I found funny about these comments was the fact that, using that logic, if me talking openly about my thoughts on the film was an issue, or the script was an issue, here's the thing: I wasn't the only one with those issues. The guy who ratted me out also had those same issues. The guy's girlfriend, like the producer's girlfriend, had those issues. The director's girlfriend had those issues. The other actor who was doing the scene, who was doing the film with me, because this is basically a two-person show, also had those issues. I wasn't the only person with issues with the script, is what I was trying to say. And I told this to the director, so I don't know why I'm the one getting blamed for this. I do not understand. On top of everything else, for the most part, I'll admit, I wasn't 100%, but for the most part, I knew my lines. I was, for the most part, memorized on my lines. There were a few times where I did kind of mess up lines, I'll admit that, but that's just the nature of filming. So we had that where, yeah, sometimes I would forget a line or two, but, we would stop, reset, continue shooting, hoping that I get the lines right, and that's it. But the other actor was completely on book for the whole film. He did not memorize his lines at all. And it's one of those things that could kind of give him the benefit of doubt, like, oh yeah, he's not really an actor, but like at the same time, that doesn't really fucking matter. And if you're cast in a role, you should be more or less off book when once you get to set. And he was not off book. He was so not off book that literally off screen there was a TV a few feet, like a feet or two behind me, or 2 steps behind me, better said, with the lines, like with a teleprompter with the lines, and he would be looking constantly right past me so he could read his lines on that TV. I didn't have a TV. He did. And that's the other thing. That's the other thing that they tried to criticize me for. Like, oh, you weren't off book. You didn't have your lines memorized. And I'm like, yeah, I messed up a few lines, but like, okay, sure, there's that. But like, how are you going to explain the fact that you had the other actor read his lines off a goddamn teleprompter? How is that fair? So that's what happened. I basically got criticized for stuff that really wasn't my fault at the end of the day. Or like, I shouldn't be criticized, or I was just getting pinned on stuff that everybody in the group was doing. Yeah, I'm the one who got blamed for it at the end, and that was just very frustrating. And eventually, they did do the film. They did reshoot everything with a better actor. And no offense to the other actor who actually they did recast the role with. It was, you did what you could. It was just a very frustrating experience, and And yeah, and I know they had plans to do a number of films after that. They only did like 3 or 4 films after that. I don't know what the hell happened afterwards, but again, it was just very frustrating that like I put in all this work for it. I remember when they were trying to cast for that other role, I even recommended a few actors, and for one reason or another, none of the actors wanted to do it. That's whatever. But it's one of those things like I was trying to help out this production so much because I believed in this project so much. Yeah, again, yes, I may have had issues with the script, but again, the point is I believed in this project so much, and then this is how I get treated at the end. Like, what the fuck? And I got blamed for stuff that was like the whole group was doing it, but I was the one being blamed for it. And then you're accusing me of not memorizing my lines, yet the other actors literally has a teleprompter right there. It's like, how is any of that fair? So yeah, that's why it's here on the list. At number 6, we have something that actually happened last year. I actually did a video for it last year because this was around the time where I had restarted my YouTube channel. But that is my headshot photo shoot from last year, or headshot photo shoot. And again, I'm not going to mention any names, but I did mention the name in the video that I did for it last year. So if you guys want to go check that out, link down below. For the past year and a half, I've been trying to get headshots done, my headshots redone. I think in the next 2 or 3 months, I'll finally be able to get my headshots redone. But last year was one of my many attempts to get my headshots redone. And that's the thing, I don't know what it's been, what the issue's been for the past year and a half, but every single time I try to get my headshots redone, something always comes up. And that's on top of the fact I just think that the whole idea behind headshots is kind of a scam. I did another video discussing that when I really restarted my channel, discussing why I don't like the idea of headshots and why I think they're overrated. But besides the point, but yeah, last year I tried to get my headshots redone. And my boy Frankie Madruga, he connected me with the headshot photographer. He met her at an event that I was actually at. I just left early, and that photographer came in later, so I didn't get a chance to meet them. But yeah, he connected me with that headshot photographer. He also needed to get his headshots redone, so it was a deal for both of us. They do the headshots, we get the headshots and we promote them. It was one of those things, and they were just starting off and doing headshot photography. They had done a lot of like landscape stuff and like street stuff, and more like event photography. So they really wanted to start doing headshot photography, and we're like, okay, cool, this is a good deal. And the headshots, the session went great. It was shorter than I thought it would be, if I'm being honest. But aside from that, I didn't really think much of it. And they told us that by next week we should have the headshots done. And I'm like, okay, cool, bada bing, bada boom, that's it. Let's get this done. Cool, right? And a week passed, and nothing happened. I gave them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe something happens. It's the weekend. Let's give it a few days. But we never heard a response. So me and Frankie tried to contact her, and nothing happened. We basically got ghosted, and Frankie stopped trying to contact them after like a week or so afterwards. And I was like, no, I'm going to keep contacting her. So I contacted them through Instagram. I contacted them through WhatsApp, Facebook, whatever. Like any way I could contact them, I tried to contact them, and I just got nothing. And after a month or so, I'm like, screw this, I'm done. I'm done. And shortly after that, they finally managed to pop out of the blue. I'm like, okay, cool. What is your excuse, essentially? I'm like, I'm sorry, but like, we're both frustrated. We're both upset. You told us that the headshots were going to be done at a certain point, and they weren't. And had you at least given us an explanation or said that, hey, give me a little bit more time, that would have been fine. But you completely ghosted us, essentially. So what is your excuse for disappearing for like a month and a half? She gave us this excuse, which I just did not buy at all. Essentially, her excuse was that she had lost the SD card, and that she had lost her computer, and that she was having family issues, and this and that. Look, I don't want to come off as a dick, but at the same time, I was kind of just sick of the bullshit. I was sick of the bullshit, and I told her that, like, hey, this is bullshit. I do not care, and what you're saying is bullshit. And I think I said this in the video that I went from when this first happened. I think I said this in the video, but like, I even countered, like, she tried to argue on how there's all this stuff going on with her, and I said, hey, if that's really the issue, why didn't you just communicate that to us earlier, straight up? Like, yes, we would have been upset. I'm not gonna lie to you, but at the same time, we wouldn't be as pissed off as we are right now after you disappeared for like a month and a half. If you would have told us this the first time around, maybe we could have set something up again. It would have been frustrating. I'm not gonna lie, but if that's what happens, that's what happens. If that's what life intended, that's what life intended. But no, you disappeared for over a month, like a month, maybe over a month. I don't remember anymore at this point, but check out the video from last year, link down below. But yeah, you disappeared for X amount of time. You didn't explain anything, and now you're saying that that you lost the footage, photos. You lost the photos. You lost the SD card. You lost your computer. You're having your family issues, which I was very sick of it. So, yeah. If you guys want to know more about it, again, I do have a video about this linked down below. Go check it out. But it was just a very unpleasant experience, and yeah, I still need to get new headshots. Hopefully this year I'm finally able to do my headshots. Cross my fingers. Hopefully nothing fucked happens again. On to oh, Jesus Christ. Next up, we have La Familia, number 5. La Familia, arguably the worst project I've ever been a part of. So yeah, why is this number 5 and not number 1 if this is the worst project I've ever been a part of? Most has to do with the fact that 1, 2, 3, and 4 aren't projects, they're experiences, like straight up experiences. Yeah, but in terms of projects, this is the worst project I've ever been a part of. It's it's one of those things, like, I try to take Bron's advice, like I said in Crucible. I try to take Bron's advice of, I'm going to do my best work, even if everybody else around me does not give a fuck. But I slowly, minute by minute, stopped giving a fuck myself. So this is another film that I did for the 48-hour film challenge. I did this last year. And heads up, I also did another behind-the-scenes video about this. Link down to it down below. If you guys want to check out the whole story, we had somebody who was part of our team who just did not want to play nice. They were making it all about themselves. They did not want or wish or had the desire to collaborate. They were trying to control everything, every little aspect of the film they were trying to control. And it was infuriating. And that's one of the worst things about any film. That's when you have somebody on set, whether it be cast or crew, who always makes it about themselves and who's always trying to basically prevent the project from being the best it could be because they're more concerned about how they appear on set, how they appear on film, or how their work appears in the project. And that's the issue that we had when this happened. And just to kind of give you a quick run through everything, they came into the writing room, so to speak. I didn't know they were going to be in the writing room. Granted, I don't have to know they were going to be in the writing room, but that's the situation because that's the thing. The director of this project, he asked me to be in the writing room. This other individual, she kind of half forced herself in there. It's one of those things, like, she told the director, like, oh, I know how to write. And he was like, okay, cool, yeah, maybe we could use her talents. And then she kind of just used that little comment to get into the writing room, and she was there. And it's one of those things that I could immediately tell that she is going to be an issue. It's one of those things that I just, red flags were ringing immediately that she was going to be an issue. Lo and behold, she was an issue. She completely derailed the project, even from the writing process. When we were spitballing ideas as to what the film could have been, I gave an idea which I think could have worked. I'm not sure if it would have worked out or not, to be honest, because we never got the chance to do it. But I gave an idea. Everybody else in the room gave an idea, but it was one of those things that we ended up going with her idea because she was so adamant about it. And I was kind of like, fuck it, it is what it is. If everybody else in the room is happy, then I might as well be happy too. I'm not gonna hold it back, right? So that's what I did, and we did that all night, writing it. Cut to filming the next day. Absolute fucking hell. Again, everything was her. Again, just not collaborative at all. And it was very, very frustrating. And everybody could tell that, especially me, was getting very frustrated with her behavior. I do not hide frustration well. When I'm frustrated, especially at somebody, I show it. I try to hide it, but people won't know when I'm frustrated. And I was just very frustrated by her attitude. And one of the main things that had occurred, especially early on, was the fact that if it was her scene, take all the time in the world that you need. We could take 10 shots on her. Doesn't matter. But when it was my scene, when it was everybody else, when it was Layla's scene, for example, okay, can we get this done? Can you just do this in one shot? Like, why are you taking so long? This shouldn't be that hard. And it was just very frustrating. And honestly, I got mad. I honestly got mad. But I held my tongue. And one of the bad things, too, is that, especially early on, we were at this location, at this house, and we needed to be out by a certain time. And that's where her thing, we're like, oh, wait, can we just do another shot? Wait, I think I messed up. Can I do another shot? Where that came into play a lot. And it's like, no, we have to respect this man's time. We need to get out. We need to get lunch, by the way. Can we just wrap this up and go? Eventually, we did that. We had lunch, and then we went on to the other location. Now, what I didn't know at first is that the other location we were going to was actually her apartment. Go figure. So we went to her apartment, and that's when hell really broke loose. I forget if I was aware about this at the time or not. Again, just check out the video from last year. But, I mean, granted, it's her apartment, so no shit, she's gonna be there, But it's one of those things that we needed to shoot one scene, like just literally one scene of Lila walking through the parking lot on her phone, and she got so pissed off about that because she wasn't there for the discussion of that scene. It's like you're an actor. You're kind of the writer, but you're just an actor. You're not the director. You have no say in how the rest of this film goes per se, and we just need to get the one shot. It's one of those things that it became such a big deal that we shot the one thing we needed to do at the parking lot, and then we went up to her house, and we literally wasted time for like an hour talking about the ending of the film because she was not satisfied with how the film ended. And it was so frustrating that like this is what we agreed on. Just because you don't like it, tough luck, that's how the industry is. And I was just very, very frustrated with how that turned out. And it came to a point that she literally cried. Like she literally cried because she did not get her way. And it was just very, very frustrating. Like it's one of those things like there was a point where the director snapped at her, I snapped at her, everybody was snapping at her because like stop being so unprofessional. It's one of those things that everybody after a while just became uncomfortable being in that house because she was just it was her way or the highway, and it's like fuck it, highway, goodbye. I just wanted to leave, and it was just very, very frustrating. And it came to a point where there was a scene in the script where it was written out a certain way. However, I guess I wasn't aware that it was written in a certain way because nobody had told me that it was written in this way. Because the script, either way, part of the reason why we had so many issues is because the script was never really truly finalized. And because of that, there was a scene in the script where I thought it was supposed to go one way, but she knew that it was gonna go a different way. And after that disagreement, she kept calling me the kid. Oh, let the kid. I'm like, bro, I'm tired of shit. I haven't slept for 48 hours, essentially. I haven't slept for 48 hours, essentially. You're being annoying. You've held up this production far more than it needs to be, and you're making up a scene on the spot, essentially. Yeah, that's what it seemed to me at the time. And it was just very frustrating, and we all just wanted to get out. And eventually we finished that film, thank fuck. We turned it in, and the film came out. And that's really all I can say. The film came out. But just fuck her. Like, honestly, so much contempt. I'm not gonna lie. So much contempt for her. So much contempt for her. But like she has got to be by far one of, if not the most unprofessional person I've ever worked with in this industry. It was just so frustrating. It was always her way or the highway. She literally cried about not getting her way, and it was just so annoying. And again, if you want to know more about this experience, link down below. On to the next. At number 4, it's honestly kind of more of a bittersweet situation, but this is when I was part of the MDC Thespian Club, the Miami-Dade College, Wolfson Campus Thespian Club. And the reason I say it's very bittersweet is because I just have a lot of mixed feelings about how this turned out at the end. In college, in general, you're trying to find yourself. You're trying to find friends, trying to find people that support you. And in high school, I really wasn't supported all that well. So in college, I felt like I did have that support system to a certain degree, and especially in the theater club at MDC. And it's one of those things. After my first year, I really liked what the club was doing, and I could also see how the club could improve and move on from where we're at to where we could be. And I ran for one of their offices, and I ran to be their vice president. And I actually won the vice presidential role. I was only vice president for literally a summer. From like April to August, I was vice president. Why was I vice president for like 3 or 4 months? It's because when the semester restarted in August, one of the other club members was like, wait, when did we elect officials? And we were like, we elected officials at the end of last semester. And she had such a huge issue with that she basically forced everybody to do a re-election. And it's in the re-election that I basically lost. The reason I lost is because the other people who were running for vice president, 2 of them were just running for the fuck of it, straight up, and they literally admitted to the fact that they were running for the fuck of it, and yet they still got points, or they still got votes. And then the person who did the complaint, she gave her reasons why she should be vice president, cool, and she was elected vice president, sad enough, and I say sad enough because she literally left the position like less than a month afterwards. So it's like, you literally did this whole thing, you literally had this whole temper tantrum, and you didn't see it out through, whereas I would have seen that out through. And it's one of those things that from that point on, I just saw the revolving door of officials for this club just turn and turn and turn and turn. Like, we had like 3 different presidents within the span of a year. And the reason I say this is such a negative experience is because of the fact that I was actually connected to a lot of these other clubs. I was connected to Rotaract. I was connected to the Pride Club. A bunch of these other clubs that were here on campus, and they knew me. That's the other thing. They knew me. They didn't know the rest of the officials because there was like, what officials? You guys have a revolving door of officials. What the hell? So they knew me. The thing is, I wasn't allowed to do any proper protocols or like proper connections or whatever have you because I'm not a board member anymore of the club. I eventually I just gave myself of the role of member at large, which I learned from another club, from the Rotaract Club, because I was a member at large for their club for some time, which is basically I'm on the board, but I don't have an official title, and I'm just given whatever tasks that the rest of the board members want to give me, and that's basically the title I gave myself after a while because I'm going to these meetings with these other clubs. The reason we did the Tunnel of Oppression was in part because of me. I was basically a producer for that project. I was the one who's trying to connect them to a bunch of other clubs. And the frustrating thing is that the leadership that we had at this club, they didn't want to work with any other clubs. And it's like, that's how you guys survive. Why are you actively refusing to work with every other club? Like, they want to work with you. Like, sure, they do want to work with you. You're just not giving them the chance to work with you because you're just so closed off to your own little space for some reason, and it makes no sense, and that was just very frustrating. Again, and then I think the worst part of it had to do with the fact that a lot of people, after a while, did believe that I was the president of the club. So not just vice president, but the president. Like, everybody at Rotaract, everybody at Pride, everybody at the rest of these clubs. And the reason I mentioned Rotaract and Pride is because I was also part of those clubs as well. I went to Pride to support a friend, and then Rotaract, I actually did become a board member for their club as well. But yeah, I met up with a bunch of these, like some of the other cultural clubs, like the Asian Association Club and the Black African American Club, and again, some of these other cultural clubs, like the Latin Club, or like some of the engineering club, for example, the robotics club, or like the chess club. Like, I was making meaningful connections with all these clubs, to the point that they thought I was the president of the Thespians Club, and I always had to remind them that no, I'm not. Technically, I'm not even a board member of their club, and that was honestly just very frustrating. And then I think one of the things that puts a nail in the coffin with this whole experience, and it's not necessarily related to the Thespian Club, just more so the department as a whole, but it's the fact that I just had a lot of friends. One of them being my ex-girlfriend, and so, hello, Unwritten. But yeah, one of them being my ex-girlfriend, and it's the fact that a lot of those people, especially in that last year, just betrayed my trust. They were using a lot of stuff that happened to me in my personal past and using that against me as a reason why they shouldn't trust me. And that's the thing. I was supposed to graduate early from Miami-Dade. I was a community college. I was supposed to do my 2 years and then go on to do FIU. But what happened is that I got bad advice from my advisor, and that's why I was held back for technically 4 years, essentially. I had to do an extra 2 years at MDC, but that last year was basically the pandemic, so that kind of doesn't matter. I kind of forget that's even a year half the time. That's why I was held back for that extra time, because of just bad advisement. And it's in that last year, 2019-2020 year, where just, again, all my friends left, and the few people who I thought were my friends betrayed me at the end. And part of it had to do with the Thespian Club, part of it had to do with just the department at large, and either way, it just sucked at the end. A lot of people thought I was the president of the club, and really, I wasn't even on the board. I basically gave myself the position because nobody really cared. It's one of those things it's one of those things I actually did try to give myself the president position at one point, and then that's when they kind of tried to do something. That's when the actual president actually tried to put their foot down. It's like, bro, you don't do shit though, so like, if you're not gonna do things, if you're not gonna do shit, let me have the position. I actually care about the club. Braun thinks I'm the president too. Like, that's the thing. Our department head thinks I'm the president of the club too half the time, anyways. So like, if you're not gonna do shit, let me do the stuff. But they yeah, bittersweet. Honestly, more bitter than sweet. But yeah, next. At number 3, I have my experience dealing with a film festival up in Greece. When you submit to film festivals, you're able to submit to all types of film festivals all around the world. That's one thing. Don't stick to just local film festivals here in your city or in your state. Go national. Go international. I've honestly won and been nominated for more awards internationally than I have nationally. Why do I bring this up? Because I had to deal with this Greek film festival, and I submitted 3 films to them. So yeah, I need to deal with this Greek film festival, which I'm going to read the title off right here, and it is the Independent Video Film Festival of YouTube and Arts Club of Pavlos Parachakis. And that is a Greek film festival. And working with them or dealing with them was such a frustrating experience that I literally had to do 2 videos exposing how unprofessional this film festival was. I'll be honest, there's a lot of film festivals that when you get accepted into them, sometimes you don't hear from them ever again. I can't really tell you why that's the nature of it, but that's just the nature of it sometimes, that you'll get accepted and then you never hear from them again. The event passes and you don't hear shit, but it is what it is. You got into this film festival, I guess. Maybe you got nominated, maybe not, who cares, move on. What I found out about this festival was just fucking atrocious. And it was so atrocious that I had to make 2 videos on it. So again, those are going to be linked down below. The reason I say they're so unprofessional is because you had the actual people who run the festival submit their own films to the festival itself and even win their own awards. Like, I don't think I've ever heard of any festival doing that. I don't think I've ever heard of any festival doing that, of allowing their own films or the films of their friends coming to their festival and then they give the award to their friends or to themselves. It's like, what is the fucking logic in that? And that's why I did 2 videos on them. And it's one of those things, they had this whole polling system that they barely advertised. And the only reason I found out is because of the fact that I decided to randomly check up on them one day after the festival had supposedly occurred, or close to it, when it was supposed to occur, if I'm not mistaken. And I found out about it, and I had asked them, hey, why are you hiding the polls? Can I share them and all this stuff? And I shared it on my own end. And it was just excuse after excuse that made no sense. And it's one of those things that I made so much trouble for them that other people from the festival, like other people who had submitted to the festival, began to complain about their practices out as well. It's one of those things that other people who were associated with the festival started attacking me, saying that I shouldn't be nominated or I should feel disgraceful. I should be disgraced by the fact that I wrote them a negative review on Film Freeway. And it's like, bro, you're telling me that I should be disgraced, yet you're winning an award because you quite literally know the guy who runs this festival. You're in his film. What the fuck? Like, how does that make any sense? And it's one of those things that I even found out that they paid for their own reviews, straight up. One of the other filmmakers that had submitted to the festival, he told me, like, hey, he contacted me saying that he would pay me X amount of money to write a good review on Film Freeway for him. And that's one of those things that I exposed in part 2. And I exposed the fact that he was paying people to write reviews. It's one of those things that I even showed proof of the fact that that originally the only review that was up on Film Freeway was that of the guy who runs the festival, 1 review. And then when I came back after the fact, there was like 50, 60 reviews, literally within the same time span, all within the same time span, and all saying how great this festival was. And it's like literally within like the span of a month, so to speak. Like, none of that makes sense. And now you're telling me that this guy literally pays for reviews? That makes so much sense. And it was extremely frustrating. And it's one of those things that the guy even contacted me, the guy who runs the festival. He contacted me trying to lie, saying that, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't pay for reviews. That guy is lying. This, and that. And it's like, no, that's fucking bullshit. And it doesn't help that and it doesn't help your case that you try to revoke my wins. Like, I could clearly tell that I won through the voting system, through the polls. I could clearly tell that I won, and now you're trying to revoke my wins and nominations because I got one over you, so to speak, because I exposed your unprofessional and honestly disgusting behavior. This was for King's Head Corner and The Date, by the way. That's the other thing. Those were the films that got into this festival, kind of. Like, my people got nominated, like Chloe and Melissa got nominated for Best Actor, and I got nominated for Best Director, and I'm pretty sure there was a Best Editing Award somewhere there, and Best Special Effects, and all this, and they tried to revoke all of that because I exposed them, essentially. That's what it came down to. I exposed them, and it was so frustrating, and it's like so bullshit, and I'm happy I exposed them. I'm pretty sure I got them off of Film Freeway, if I'm not mistaken, which thank fuck, and honestly, again, just fuck those people. Fuck those people. Next. At number 2, I have my time at Area Stage Company. Originally, a few years ago, I actually did a video on my experience at Area Stage Company, but I took it down. The reason I took it down is because I felt I didn't really express my time. Like, I feel like the things I expressed in that video, or the way I said them, just weren't coming across in the best manner, and that's why I took it down. So what do I have here? So my time at Area Stage was honestly very complicated, so to speak. I started off there as a student initially. I did their classes, and I had a lot of fun as a student. But there came a point where, in high school, in order to graduate, I needed to take up an internship. and I decided to do my internship at Area Stage Company. In high school, I was very naive of a lot of things. It's one of those things that like my naive shell kind of broke a bit working with Area Stage Company because they were just really, really bad to work with. I'm very happy and justified in saying this, especially after the fact that I know a lot of other people who have worked with them and have had similar experiences working with them. How it's just a very negative and toxic environment to work with them, and so it's happy to know that I'm not the only person with issues with them. I'm basically going to tell you the story, I guess, to just surmise this whole thing, because I had a lot of issues with them, whether it be how they said I treated people, so to speak, or what I said about people. I had a lot of issues with them, and to a certain degree, they had a lot of issues with me. And I'll take the fault for some of those stuff. I was immature back then. I was 16 when I took the job, and I'll be honest. Like there are times where I admit I could have been more professional. At the end of the day, I don't think it excuses what they did at the end, especially with how they fired me. So what happened is that with any theatrical show anywhere, you're not allowed to film the show. Like that's basic theater etiquette. You are not allowed to film the show at all. It doesn't matter. You're not allowed to film, especially at Area Stage. I'm not sure if they do this still now, but at the time, what they did is that they would record the show and edit it in a manner so they could sell it as DVDs. And the best example I could give of that would be like for any of those live shows that you see on like Disney Plus or Netflix, like the Hamilton show, or I think Shrek is like on Netflix, for example. It's like stuff like that, like those recordings. So that's what they would do. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure if they still do that to this day, but that's what they did at the time. And there was a individual in the like literally front row who was filming the show. And that's the thing. We were working with a lot of kids, so this was like the mother filming for her daughter. Cool. And I'll be honest, me personally, I didn't really give a fuck. If I'm being honest, it's one of those things like had my boss not been there and had explicitly told me to go tell that woman to not film anymore, I honestly probably would have turned the other way and like not cared. But my boss straight up told me, "Hey, go tell that person to not film anymore." So that's what I did, and that woman had such a fit because that's my daughter up there. Like I'm allowed to record, blah 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 blah. I'm like, and she was honestly creating a scene. And I'm like, "Ma'am, I'm telling you what she told me. When my boss is telling me you're not allowed to record here, you should know the rules by now." Like it's almost like I was trying to be very nice. I'm trying not to cause a scene more than she already is causing a scene with. And it's one of those things like her husband eventually like took away the phone, like he was trying to control the situation as well. And I didn't really think much of it till I was cleaning up the theater, and she comes up to me and she's like, "Oh, what you did was wrong, and I'm gonna complain to you. And I see how you see the children." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Right? I'm like, I literally said like, "What do you see the children?" It's like, I see how you see them. You're a pervert. I'm like, so you can kind of understand what she's trying to imply. And I'm like, I know that's not like it's one of those, I was so taken aback that I really didn't know how to respond to those allegations. And I'm 16, and I'll be honest, I was very sheltered. Like in high school, I was very sheltered. I really got out of my shell in college, but this is one of those things that helped crack that shell, so to speak. Come to find out that woman was actually one of the major donors of Area Stage. So they fired me essentially to keep that donor happy. Go figure. And the excuse, first off, the way they fired me was suspicious on so many ways because it's one of those things. They had my email, they had my number, and instead they emailed my mom because they also had her email because of the records from when I was a student at Area Stage. And they went through the records and they contacted my mom and told my mom to tell me that I was fired. And the reason they fired me, which I'll be honest, I'll give them credit for this. It's a good reason to pin on me, but it's not like, it's like, that's a reason, but that's not the reason. And it's a fair enough reason because I was starting to come late. And what happened is that to this day, I take the bus and train everywhere. And at that time, they were doing a lot of remodeling here in the MDC Metro Rail and Metro Bus, the Metro system here. They're upgrading the buses, they're upgrading the trains. And because of those upgrades, there's a lot of times where I would come late. Thing is, I wasn't the only person coming late because of those delays, because of the reconstruction of the system, the metro system. But that's what they pinned it on. They pinned it on the fact that I was always coming in late. Honestly, fair enough. That's smart, but we all know that's not the real reason you fired me. Like I said, I posted a video of this afterwards, and they actually commented, but they had accused me of the same things that woman was accusing me of. Like, oh, I was looking at the children inappropriately, and I was like just like having bad thoughts about them. And I'm like, no, that's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then they even accused me of being phobic, of being like homophobic or transphobic or LGBTQ phobic of some of these kids. And I'm like, no, that's a very sensitive thing of to accuse me of. Like, I would never I would never be discriminatory against anybody for their sexual preference or sexual identity or anything like that. Like, that's ridiculous. And that was such a surprised that they commented on that. And that was a major allegation that I remember from them. They also alleged a few other things that I don't remember, but I remember that's the one main thing that I countered on. Like, you're crazy about that. Like, if you're going to accuse me of that. And if that was concern, even at that point, then why didn't you never talk to me about it? I worked with them for about 3 or 4 months, I want to say, like 3 or 4 months. And just that whole experience was very, very toxic. It's one of those things, like, I came into them, working with them, excited because of how the classes were, because I enjoyed my time in the classes. And when I left, I'll be honest, I'm completely fuck area stage. Like, they are such a toxic place to work with. And I'm, again, like I said at the beginning of this whole rant, I'm justified because I'm not the only person who has had a negative experience with them, with working with them. Apparently I'm not even the first person who has been accused of that type of behavior by their management, of looking at kids inappropriately or being phobic or racist against some of their students. And it's like, those are just false allegations, and they're trying to cover their ass however they want, and it's just unfair. Again, there's a bunch more stories I can say in regards to that, but I just kind of wanted to tell my firing story because I think it's just the most significant one, and it's the one that culminates. Like, it's one of those things, like, whatever other story I say, eventually it culminates to me getting fired, and I might as well just get the fired version off. Like, it's one of those things, like, there's a lot of other issues there that they always had with me. Like, and it's one of those things, again, 16 years old. I'll be honest, I could have been more responsible. I could have been more professional. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to hide that fact either. But at the same time, you guys also fostered a very toxic environment to work with. And at 16, I guess I just didn't know how to handle it, so to speak. I don't know. If you want to work with a great production company, go to Zoetic. Go to Actors Playhouse. Go to a place that actually respects your talent. That's the one thing I don't like about Area Stage 2. Like, they always get awards for being, like, a great place to work with. And it's like, fucking, really? Like, if you're one of their cast members, I'm not gonna lie. If you're one of the cast members, fantastic place to work with. Anything else, you're fucked. Next. So at number 1, we have my time at working at IndieWise, specifically my third year with them. I worked with them from their third year to their fifth year. They had a 5-year run, and I worked 3, 4, and 5. Those are the 3 years I worked with them. Just to get it out of the way, my first year with them, I was basically like an assistant, like a volunteer assistant. Year 2, I was on their board as, I forget what my official title was, if I'm being honest. I think it was like just a general advisor type of thing. In my last year with them, my third year with them, I was basically the event coordinator. And that third year is where everything hit the fan. And it's where, again, the festival organizer he fostered this very toxic environment. It's one of those things where, because of everything that was going on, because he thought he had made it up there, so to speak, he felt like he had the right to be openly, verbally abusive to everybody that was under him. And I think what part of it that didn't help is the fact that we were in Vegas, and it's just very easy to get drinks in Vegas, even though I was 20 years old at that time. Very easy to get drinks in Vegas. So it's the only time I would say, the only true time I would say that I drank my problems away. That wasn't good. I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't good. But that's also the reality of the situation. It's one of those things that I go to these events, even as a festival goer. I go to these events to communicate with people, to network with people, to foster relationships with these people. More so now, if I'm an event manager for a film festival, because I've been on the board for several festivals actually, and aside from this one, so when you're on the board of a festival, your drive to do that, to connect with the public, is at a greater stance. And it's one of those things that I was just hampered time after time after time of being able to do that. It's one of those things that I was literally put into a room like Harry Potter at one point and made to sit there because I enjoy watching films. They needed a projectionist, and it's like, we're at a theater. Can't the theater just provide their own projectionist type of thing? But it's like, no, we need someone from the production, from the festival to do that. And we didn't have any volunteers. And it's one of those things like, oh, These other people are doing the tour at the Hoover Dam, because again, we're at Vegas. These people are doing the tour at the Hoover Dam, and this other person is making sure that everything at the hotel is going great. And you're like the only person here at the festival, here at the theater. It's only you and this other person, but this other person needs to go fix some stuff at the hotel pretty soon as well. So can you just be up there in the projection room and make sure all these films are going well? You'll maybe have help from the projectionist as well, but it's going to be just you alone. And I had to do that for 2 days in a row. I was at this festival for 5 days, and 2 of those days I was locked in a room, Harry Potter style, not being able to communicate with anybody. It's one of those things that I came out of that room the second day and I quite literally cried. Charles Ace, who I worked with after the fact on Kingsit and Silent Locale Cinematics, Elise Spiro, who I worked with on Broward County here, the taking of Broward County, for example. The Campos sisters, who were great to me, like, they all defended me after this, because there's like, this is not how you treat somebody. Regardless of staff or whoever, this is not how you treat somebody, and everybody recognized the fact that I was doing all this work and I was just being bullied into a room in a corner, not being able to do what I wanted to do. And that's what led up to me basically drinking away those days for like that whole week in Sin City. And it's one of those things that all the other festival goers can tell that I was not having an enjoyable time. They can tell that the main guy was being abusive, and he wasn't just being openly abusive towards me, like verbally abusive towards me, but he was doing this to everybody else who was under him, but like he was doing it the most towards me because I was the youngest. Yeah, it's one of those things that it came on the third day. On the third day, when we were doing our meetings, like, because there was a session where it's like business meetings, like where executives from some of these studios, from like local studios or minor studios or whatever, will come in and they would sit in, and if you're a filmmaker and you want to get your film produced, you could go meet with these executives, right? So I was controlling all that, and it got to the point where he literally took me aside while I was trying to do my job, and he could clearly tell that I'm not in the mood to have this conversation, and he basically asked me what the issue is, and I told him what the issues were, and he got so mad that he threatened to fire me right there on the spot and take away my ticket home, because that's the thing, he paid for my plane ticket home, and he threatened to do that. And I remember to this day that like how even the nature of how he did it, like he got so angry that he even I'm doing the sitting down, but like it, in real life we were standing up, but it's one of those things, he literally banged on the floor, like, and I swear to God that I will take away your ticket right now, and he literally went on the floor and like, swear to God, and it's like, bro, what is going on? And it's one of those things, like, I almost cried there, like, right on the spot, because, like, this is not fair for me to be treated. Like, I've been put in a broom closet already the past 2 days. I'm expressing to you how I feel. I'm not the only person who's frustrated by your behavior, by the way. And you're not only are you threatening to fire me, but you're also threatening to, like, take away my plane ticket and leave me stranded here in Vegas. It's one of those things that literally shortly after we had that conversation, I went on my phone and I guess I not requested, but like I guess I confirmed my plane ticket to go back to Miami, because in case he did want to take it away, it's like, oh, you can't take it away now because it's confirmed. Turns out I confirmed it for everybody in my party, so to speak. So that was good. So like everybody on the day of when we were leaving, on that Monday, I want to say that Monday or Sunday night, Monday morning, when we were leaving, everybody's like, oh, it's already confirmed. Why is it confirmed? I'm like, oh, I confirmed mine. I guess I confirmed for everybody else because of that incident. And it was just a very frustrating and just disheartening experience, and I really just didn't enjoy my time. There were some good parts to it. Again, I got to hang out with some friends, like with Jamal and Neymar and Ariana and Ryan and so many people. Jesus Christ, Leo and Sandro and Celine and a bunch of the Jamal, I think I said already, like a bunch of these other people. I got to eat White Castle for the first time, for example. I walked through the Vegas Strip, I got to meet Vivica A. Fox as well, because she was one of the guests of honors. We had a few guests of honors, but she was like the big guest of honors. The only other guests of honors that we had were like Instagram models. The only one I remember was Adiel Grinch, because I was like following her at the time. So there is that. There was some good stuff, but like, it's one of those things, like, after that conversation where like, I will send you back to Miami. I will send you back to Miami and all this. And I will fire you right now and all that stuff. Like, it's one of those things that I just kind of dug my head in the dirt, just worked what I needed to work, and that's it. And then I went go out with friends and just drank. Oh, Peter, my roommate, Peter, he was also great. He was also great. He also gave me a lot of great advice on how to handle the head asshole. That was the experience, and That's by far the worst experience I've ever had working in this industry, whether it be as an actor, director, board member, whatever you have it. That is by far the worst experience I've ever had. Just very fast, I want to say these quick honorable mentions. And the first one here, I have the Dracula web series. Basically, similar to how Lost Love basically broke up a friendship, this one also broke up a friendship. I eventually, in the past 2 years, I did manage to contact the friend, or they contacted me, better said, and we did repair our friendship. But I'll be honest in saying that it's nowhere near to how it originally was. And although I have forgiven them, it's one of those things that I don't think it's ever going to be back to those levels that it originally was. So yeah, that's a project that basically broke up a friendship. Long story short, basically the actress that I had for the deal, and I kind of discussed this last week too. The actress I got for the deal, I got her a part in this project of Dracula, and she went on to betray me. So that's what happened. Next up, I have Project Fraudo. It's basically a retread of Unwritten in a lot of ways, especially the plot. It's the only project that I've been paid as a director to do. I'll be honest, I just didn't take it seriously because I thought the script was just very dumb, but I'm like, hey, I got paid to do this, so let's go with it. Why not? It's one of those things I did do some like script rewriting, but it's also like the plot-wise, it's just very similar to Unwritten, and I just like didn't care for it. It's one of those things that Project Fraudo may, like, technically speaking, may be the worst project I've ever done. But Unwritten, just for me, it's just still a black stain on my record. Next up, it's a photo shoot that I recently did. I actually did a behind-the-scenes video for it, and the reason I have it here is just because it was a very disappointing photo shoot. I thought it was going to be a photo shoot for a product, and because that's what I was told, and at the end, it just wasn't that. That's not what it really turned out to be. And it was just a very quick photo shoot, and I just didn't like how it turned out at the end. I did a video behind the scenes of it, so if you guys want to check it out, go ahead. And last but not least, I have my BFA rejection. So I auditioned for the BFA at FIU, and I got rejected from it. And it's the reason it's here, and I'll be honest, I did consider putting this on the list, but I decided not to, mostly because I've started to move on from it. I've started to heal from it. But yeah, but I still kind of want to give it a quick shout out, and a lot of it had to do with just the fact how I reacted to that situation, and how I basically shut down after being rejected from the BFA. Yeah, that's why it's here on the honorable mentions. Also, I'll be honest, I kind of just don't want to really talk about it in expanse as well, so there's that. So yeah, those are the 4 honorable mentions. We have the BFA rejection, a photo shoot, Project Fraudo, and this Dracula web series. And yeah, that's basically it for this video. Again, I wanted to give you guys a full scope of not just the good, but also the bad. As an actor, as a filmmaker, as a creative in this industry, you're going to go through a lot of bad experiences. And I felt it would be wrong for me to just only show you or only talk about the good stuff. I feel like it would be good for you guys to also hear about my downsides, about the negative stuff that has happened to me, in case that helps you guys in any way, shape, or form, in case that inspires you to hopefully get out of whatever possibly abusive situation you guys are in. And because as you can tell, there's a lot of abusive situations here that have occurred to me, especially in Indie-wise, Area Stage Company, Broward County, the Taking Broward County, for example. You know, all those projects, Summer Joy and You're It, and all those projects, you know, the Forever Youth and Bond, like, especially in this industry, there's a lot of abuse. It comes in a lot of ways, whether it be verbal or physical or sexual or whatever have you. There's a lot of abuse that happens, and I just kind of want to be transparent, whether it just be straight up abuse or just a negative experience that I had, or just me making a film because I need to distract myself from a breakup or whatever have you. I just wanted to be transparent with you. This industry is a beautiful industry. Don't get me wrong. It is a beautiful industry. It's an industry where you can truly foster who you are. You can truly flourish who you are. You can show your art to the world. But at the same time, you can't be blinded by that fact. You also have to be open to the reality that not everything in this industry is good. You are going to have these very, very shitty experiences from time to time. And these just happen to be some of the shitty experiences that have happened to me from time to time. And again, I just wanted to be completely transparent. And in this, I want to show you guys a full journey of what I've done. And that's why I did this video. And yeah, that's basically it for now. This is Daniel Mart, signing off.